Welcome to my MOOC on selected readings in British and American poetry. Today, I'll give a brief introduction to the course with the topic of Poetry Delights and Instructs. This is the agenda I prepared for this lecture. My first topic is Poetry Delights and Instructs. I will talk about what is poetry, why people are interested in reading poetry, how does poetry delight and instruct us. My second topic is Poetry Communicates Experience. We'll discuss how poetry communicates experience rather than information, with Robert Browning's short poem, Meeting at Night, as an example. My third topic is Poetry Says Much in Little. I will use Robert Frost's short poem, The Pasture, as an example to illustrate the deceptive simplicity in the poetry of Robert Frost. Then I will describe my course with a syllabus to make it clear what we are going to do every week in this semester. And then I will talk about why we read all these masterpieces. I will also give a brief introduction to some reference books for this course. And finally, I will end up my lecture today with assignments for next week. My first topic is Poetry Delights and Instructs. But before I talk about this topic, I would like to invite you to have a look at a famous sculpture. This is Giovanni Lorenzo Bernini's sculptural presentation of Apollo and Daphne. Bernini was an Italian architect and artist, credited with creating the Baroque style of sculpture. This Apollo and Daphne is from among his early sculptures. In Greek mythology, there is a story in which Apollo, the god of poetry, fell in love with Daphne, who was the daughter of a river god. She lived a pastoral life. When Apollo pursued her, she ran away and prayed to her father to save her. Just as Apollo was about to overtake her, she was transformed into a laurel tree. Apollo then took its leave to weave garlands that were awarded to prize-winning poets ever since. So Apollo's pursuit of beautiful Daphne ends up with a laurel tree, which became sacred, something divine and something holy. Reading poetry, seems to me, is also a pursuit for something beautiful and sacred. Because, as I often say, when we have a good understanding of a poem, we are actually taking a step closer toward the true meaning of life. Since poetry communicates universal experience, and poets tend to get the reader to share with their views of life, reading poetry, therefore, will be a journey toward the light of humanities, toward the light of life. So it is also something beautiful and something divine and holy. Aristotle says, poetry tends to express the universal. In other words, poetry communicates the universal experience. So in all ages and in all places of this world, people have been writing poetry, and poetry has been eagerly read and listened to by all people. Poetry has been a special concern of the educated, the intelligent, and the wealthy. Yet it also appeals to the uneducated, the unintelligent, and the poor. Horace says that the poet has mingled profit, that is usefulness, with pleasure, by delighting the reader at once and instructing him. Samuel Johnson, the compiler of the first English dictionary, says poetry is the art of uniting pleasure with truth by calling imagination to the help of reason. The essence of poetry is invention. Shelley says that poetry is the record of the best and happiest moments of the best minds. A poem is the very image of life expressed in its eternal truth. To Shelley, poetry records the best and happiest moments of the best minds. It gives us pleasure. It delights us. And at the same time, poetry expresses the eternal truth in life. So poetry combines pleasure with truth. Robert Frost, a 20th century American poet, says a living poem begins with a lump in the throat, a homesickness or a love sickness. It is a reaching out toward expression, an effort to find fulfillment. A complete poem is one where emotion has found its thought and thought has found the words. He also says, a poem begins in delight and ends in wisdom. It begins in delight, it inclines to the impulse, it assumes direction with the first line laid down, it runs a course of lucky events and ends in a clarification of life. Not necessarily a great clarification, but in a momentary state against confusion. Poetry, therefore, gives us both delight and wisdom, making our life more colorful and more meaningful. Poetry has been regarded as something essential to our existence, something having a unique value to our fully experienced life, something a person is better off for having, and spiritually impoverished for not having. We read, listen to, or even recite poetry because it not only gives us pleasure, but also takes us a step closer toward the true meaning of life. So we say that poetry delights and instructs at the same time.